explain les accents, since one of my students chose the subject for me to make a mini lesson on. In French, we have 5 accents, or accents in French. We have l'accent aigu, l'accent grave, l'accent circumflex, le Prima, and la cédille. The number one thing that you have to know about accents is that it's just like spelling a word correctly. How did you learn how to spell in English? Probably in elementary school, you had teachers who taught you spelling, and you had to write the words over and over again. It probably wasn't very fun or exciting, but that's how you memorized the word. Sometimes you sounded it out, and sometimes we have weird words in English where the sounding out doesn't really help, and you just had to memorize it. That's what I'm going to tell you for the accents. Sometimes you just have to memorize it. For French students who speak French and were born in France, it's going to be a little bit easier because they already know the words perfectly and they can try to sound it out. You, on the other hand, are learning the French words. At the same time, you're also learning how to spell them. So sounding out isn't going to help all the time. Again, there's no magic tricks to this. You just have to learn the word with the accents. Don't ignore them. Rule number 2, do not make up accents when you're writing French words on a quiz or a test or homework. It's the same thing. If you just add letters, it doesn't help you spell the word more correctly. It doesn't fool the teacher. So please don't start putting accents willy-nilly everywhere. If you don't know, don't put anything. So let's get started on these accents. I'm going to try to keep it short, so I might leave some things out. Just bear with me. We're just going to really try to memorize the names along with what the accent does and just a little bit about how it would sound on a word. So let's start with l'accent aigu. L'accent aigu, you would see on an E, and it goes up like that. I had a student come up with an idea to remember it. Remember A-gu. It sounds like the letter A in English. And when you write the letter A in English, the first step is to go up, just like the accent goes up. And then you do the rest of the letter to make your A. So again, the first step when you write the letter A is going up, and that's exactly what this accent looks like. And it's the accent aigu. So it sounds like the A. The second way that the name of the accent helps you is because it tells you what that accent does. Normally, when you see an E in French, it makes the sound, like je. You should know that word. But say I put the accent aigu on top, it would make the sound change to an A sound. Very simply, we changed it from je to j'ai. That's not a word right there, but that's okay. It's just an example for how it would sound. Next, we have l'accent grave. And the accent grave you might see over an E, over an A, over an E, or over a U. And it seems like it doesn't do too much, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with this. But basically, instead of the sound that we just talked about with the accent aigu, the normal sound of the French E, it would change that to an sound, like in the English word let, Over the A and U, it's generally used to help you tell the difference between two words. For example, we have ou with our accent grave, and we have ou without. And you should know that the ou with the accent grave means where, and the one without means or. Now this is exactly like English. We have two words that when you say them, you can't tell the difference, like here and here. They sound exactly the same, but when you spell them, you can tell the difference now, all of a sudden. That's what it does there. Again, these two sound exactly the same. Ooh, ooh. Don't try to put an accent on it like a stress. That's the difference between our French accents and if you took Spanish before, the Spanish accents. The Spanish accents are all about stress. Like a syllable, for instance, where you put the accent would change where you put the stress on a word, like syllable, syllable, syllable. That's what the Spanish accent does. French, they have different sounds and different jobs. Okay, let's move a little more quickly here onto the accent circumflex. The accent circumflex can go on any of the vowels, and it's a little hat right here, okay? And that little hat that goes on the vowels, it also makes the same sound change as the accent grave, the eh sound, not the sound. And it also gives a little hint as to what words mean. Now this word fête in French, you might not be able to tell what it means, but since it has a circumflex, it gives you a clue. Now please do not start writing S's wherever you see the circumflex. This is only to help you guess its meaning in English. When you see the circumflex, there's a good chance that long ago there used to be an S in it. Now languages, they kind of evolved at a certain point and they changed, and so this word, because it has a circumflex, used to have an S. So let's rewrite it like that. Now, do you recognize that word? If you sound it out, it sounds like in English, feast. And that's where this word came from, feast. And what it means now is holiday or party, when you generally eat a lot and have a feast. So that was a hint. Let's try this word here, forêt. Now, maybe you can guess what this means in English. Take a second to think about it. Imagine that an S is there. Don't actually write it. Just imagine that an S is there. Okay, hopefully you imagined an S right here, and now that reveals its meaning as forest, and that's what a forêt is, forest. So that's a cute little trick that the accent can do. It's kind of helpful. Okay, let's move on to le Prima. Le Prima has a job of separating vowels. In English and in French, when some vowels appear together, they blend together. For example, let's use the word of the country, the name of the country, Haiti. Now, in English, we call this country Haiti, and you can see that we have the two vowels here, A and I. Now, they're not making two different sounds. They're making one, the A sound. But for the people who live in Haiti, they actually use and pay attention to the tréma, the two dots over that I. So when they see that, it's telling them, all right, I have to separate those two vowels. When I'm saying that, I have to separate them. So let's take off the H sound first, because the French don't pronounce the H. And then let's pronounce the A and I separately. So we have A, E, T. We don't say A-T, we say A, E, T. That's what the Prima did. It separated the A and I into A-I. We pronounce them separately. So Haiti is how you actually pronounce the name of the country. Another word you might recognize is this one right here. Now in English, this is an English word as well as a French word, but if we're going to try to sound it out just using our English rules, it would look like knave or knife. But in the spelling of the word, we have a Prima over there, and so it's really pronounced naive. And naive is a word that we use in English, and hopefully you know what it means. If not, go ask your English teacher. And this one, you'll generally see over the E, the I, or the U. Okay, last one, la cd. La cd, beginning of the word, sounds like say, which in French, hopefully you know that that is this letter right here. Now the la cd will appear on a C when it's next to an A, when it's next to an O, or when it's next to a U. Sometimes. It will never appear next to an E or next to an I, okay? No, we don't need it there, and I'll get into why. So we have C in front of an A, C in front of an O, C in front of a U. And let's write them here without the CD. This is what the CD does. It makes a S sound. CD. The name of the accent gives you a clue as to what it does. So when we have the CD here, we make a little S sound. So sa, so, su. We don't have the CD here on the other side. There's no CD. So you don't make the S sound. You make a K sound, like a K, a K sound. So we have ka, ko, ki. That's all it does. If you write a CA, if you have to spell a CA in a word, but it's not supposed to sound like ka, it's supposed to sound like sa. For instance, in comme ça, or comme si comme ça, then you have to put that accent on there. The reason you do not need it next to the E or the I is because that automatically makes an S sound. C and E automatically makes a S sound. So there's no reason to put that accent there. Okay, so speaking of comme ci comme ça, let's use that as an example here. Okay, remember this means so-so. I know that some students have trouble trying to remember where the CD goes on in this phrase because there's so many C's and they just want to put it anywhere because they know it's supposed to go somewhere. Now here's a clue. First say it in your head. Comme ci, comme ça. We have a CO here and we just made the K sound, so there should not be a CD. We have a CI here. It makes the S sound, but that's not in our group here. A CI already makes the S sound, so we don't need a CD there either. We have another K sound, so no CD. And then sa, we have another S sound. That is in our group. Since it's a CA, but we want to make an S sound, we must put that CD on that. Now, that's a giant CD. You don't have to do it that big, but I'm using a stylus and it's not as accurate as a regular pencil, so bear with me there. Alright, so comme ci, comme ça, that's your trick for knowing where to put the CD. Lastly, with the CD is what it is or how to draw it. I have some students who say that they like to imagine it's a tiny little 5 on the bottom of a C. That's fine if you want to do it that way. As long as it ends up looking like a CD in the end, that's fine. I just tend to think about it in 3 parts. We have a C, and we have a little line, and then we do an upside down backwards C. Whichever one you want to choose, that's fine. Again, as long as it looks like one, I don't care how you think about it. So those are the French accents. Remember again that there is no magic trick. It's part of spelling, just like you had to memorize how to spell words in English class. You just had to practice them. That's the same thing with French. And secondly, please do not just put accents willy-nilly in your words. If you don't know, don't put them. It's safer that way. And lastly, these are different than Spanish accents. They don't have anything to do with stress on syllables. they have different jobs and they make different sounds. So that's it for the accents. I hope that was helpful. It's a 15-minute lesson. Hopefully, if your friends don't understand accents, share this with them, and hopefully it sheds a little light on the accents for you.